I was 42 when I died, and in those moments beyond the veil, Jesus showed me something that made my billions feel like dust. My name is Victoria Ashland Kane. I died on January 19th, 2026, at 11:34 p.m. in a penthouse suite overlooking the city I helped build. I was dead for 14 minutes. But in those 14 minutes, I saw the future. I saw what we were becoming. And I saw why this year, this exact year, would be the moment humanity would try to play God. Before I tell you what I saw, I need you to do something with me right now. Close your eyes, take a breath, and whisper one word, just one. Whisper eternity. Say it softly, like a question. Eternity. If something in your chest tightened, if something in your spirit woke up, then you need to hear this. Because what I'm about to share isn't just about me. It's about all of us. It's about what we're running toward and what we're running from. And it's about the choice we all have to make before it's too late. I grew up with nothing. People don't know that about me because I spent the last 20 years making sure they forgot. I rewrote my story, bought a new past, hired publicists to erase the trailer park, the food stamps, the nights my mother cried because the electricity was cut off again. I made my first million at 23, my first billion at 31. Tech, AI, biotech. I had my hands in everything that mattered, everything that was shaping the future. I told myself I was building a better world. And maybe I believed it for a while, but the truth is, I was building an empire. And empires require sacrifice. I sacrificed relationships, time, sleep, my health. I lived on coffee and ambition and the terror of ever being poor again. I went to a few charity galas. I smiled for the cameras. I wrote checks that made people call me generous. But I didn't know how to be still. I didn't know how to rest. I had a therapist once who asked me what I was afraid of. I laughed and said, "Nothing." But she didn't laugh. She just looked at me with this sad, knowing look and said, "That's the problem, Victoria. You're afraid of everything. That's why you keep moving." I fired her the next week. The day I died, I was in the middle of the biggest deal of my life. A merger, an acquisition, a move that would have made me the wealthiest woman in the world. I was on a video call with investors in Singapore, Tokyo, New York, London, all at once. The penthouse was silent except for my voice and the hum of the servers in the next room. I remember the taste of cold espresso, the blue light from the screens, the tightness in my chest that I'd been ignoring for weeks. And then the tightness became pain. Sharp, radiating. I tried to stand, but my legs wouldn't hold me. I fell. The last thing I heard was someone on the screen shouting my name. And then there was nothing, just silence. A silence so vast it swallowed the world. I opened my eyes, and I wasn't on the floor anymore. I was standing. I looked down, and I could see my body. Slumped. Gray. Paramedics were rushing in. Someone was doing compressions, but I wasn't there. I was above it, weightless, free. And for the first time in 20 years, I felt calm. And then I saw him. He was standing by the window, looking out at the city. At first, I thought he was just a man. But when he turned to face me, I knew. I knew it was Jesus. Not because of a halo or wings or anything I'd seen in paintings, but because of the way he looked at me. Like he knew everything, every lie, every sin, every secret I'd buried. And he wasn't angry. He was sad. He walked toward me, and I wanted to run. But I couldn't move. He stopped a few feet away and said, "Victoria, you've been running your whole life, but you can't run from this." His voice wasn't loud, but it filled everything. I tried to speak, but I couldn't find words. He smiled, just a little. "Come," he said. "There's something I need to show you." He didn't reach for me. He just turned and started walking. And I followed. The penthouse dissolved around us, and suddenly we were somewhere else, somewhere that felt like the edge of time. I could see the city below, but it was different, brighter, sharper, and I realized I was seeing the future, not far, just months ahead, maybe a year. I saw buildings with names I recognized, companies I owned stock in, and I saw people, thousands of them, lined up outside clinics, outside labs. They were waiting, desperate, hopeful, afraid, and I saw what they were waiting for: immortality. Jesus stood beside me, and his voice was quiet. "This is 2026, he said. "This is the year they finally believe they can escape death." I watched as scientists in white coats stood in front of cameras making promises. Promising that aging could be reversed, that cells could be reprogrammed, that consciousness could be uploaded, that death was just a problem waiting to be solved. And people believed them because they wanted to, because they were terrified. I saw billionaires, men and women like me, writing checks for billions, funding labs, funding trials, funding the dream that they would never have to face what I was facing. And I saw the cost. I saw young people, barely in their 20s, signing contracts to donate their bodies to research. I saw families selling everything they had for a chance at a treatment that might buy them 10 more years. I saw the desperation, the worship of the body, the worship of time. Jesus turned to me, and his eyes were full of something I couldn't name. Not anger, something deeper. Grief, maybe. "They think they're solving death," he said, "but they're only running from me." I didn't understand. Not at first, but then he showed me more. He showed me a woman lying in a hospital bed. She was maybe 60, wealthy, connected. She'd paid a fortune for an experimental treatment, gene therapy, cellular rejuvenation, something that promised to add decades to her life. And it worked. For a while. Her skin tightened. Her energy returned. She looked younger, felt younger. But inside, something was breaking. Her soul was screaming. Because she'd spent so much time trying to fix her body that she'd forgotten to heal her heart. And when the treatment failed, when her body finally gave out anyway, she died in terror. Not because death was painful, but because she'd never made peace with it. She'd spent her whole life running, and in the end, she ran out of road. Jesus said, "This is what happens when people try to escape death instead of surrendering to me. They lose the very thing they're trying to save, their soul." He walked further, and I followed, and he showed me something else, a lab, deep underground, sterile, cold. I saw rows of machines, and inside the machines I saw bodies, preserved, frozen, waiting. These were people who had chosen to be cryogenically frozen, hoping that someday science would bring them back. And I felt the emptiness, the loneliness, the silence of those bodies, suspended between life and death, neither here nor there. And Jesus said, "They're waiting for a resurrection that will never come, because the only resurrection that matters is the one I already gave." I felt tears on my face, even though I didn't have a body. I understood. I finally understood. We were so busy trying to conquer death that we'd forgotten why we were alive. We'd forgotten that we were made for more than this, more than longer life, more than perfect health, more than time. We were made for eternity. And eternity didn't start after death. It started now, in the choices we made, in the love we gave, in the surrender. He showed me one more thing. He showed me a room, small, dim. There was a man sitting on the edge of a bed. He was dying. Cancer. Stage 4. He had no money for treatments, no access to the experimental drugs that people like me could afford. But he wasn't afraid. He was praying. And when he finished praying, he smiled. Not because he was happy to die, but because he knew where he was going. He knew who was waiting for him. And I saw the light around him. I saw the angels. I saw the peace that passed understanding. And I realized that this man, who had nothing, had everything, because he had Jesus. And I, who had everything, had nothing, because I'd never made room for him. Jesus turned to me, and his voice was tender. "Victoria, this is why I'm showing you this. Not to condemn you, but to wake you up. 2026 is the year people will try harder than ever to escape death. But death is not the enemy. I defeated death. The enemy is the lie that says you can save yourself, that you can buy more time, that you can fix what only I can heal. He reached out, and for the first time, he touched me, his hand on my shoulder. And I felt it. I felt every lie I'd believed, every wall I'd built, every moment I'd chosen control over surrender. And I broke. I fell to my knees, even though we were standing in nothing, and I sobbed. Not pretty tears, ugly, desperate, broken tears. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I'm so sorry. I wasted it all. I wasted everything." And Jesus knelt beside me. He didn't say it was okay. He didn't say it didn't matter. He just said, "I know, but it's not too late." I looked up at him, and his face was so full of love I thought I might disappear into it. "You can go back," he said. "You can live differently. You can stop running. You can stop trying to escape death and start embracing life, real life, the kind I came to give you, abundant, full, eternal. But you have to choose it. Every day, you have to choose me." And then there was a pull, a sharp, burning pull. I gasped, and suddenly I was back in my body, back on the cold marble floor. Paramedics were still there. Someone was shouting, "We got a pulse!" My chest hurt, everything hurt. But I was alive, and I wasn't the same. I spent 3 days in the hospital. The doctors said it was a miracle. They said I shouldn't have survived. But I knew better. I knew exactly why I was still here. When I got home, the first thing I did was cancel the merger. My team thought I'd lost my mind. My lawyers threatened to quit, but I didn't care. I started liquidating assets, billions. I started funding hospices, addiction recovery centers, programs for the homeless, not because I wanted good press, but because I finally understood that the only wealth that mattered was the wealth I gave away. I started going to church, a small one. Not the kind where cameras follow you, just a plain little building where people sang off key and prayed with their whole hearts. And I sat in the back and cried, because I'd spent my whole life building towers and I'd never once looked up. I started talking to people, really talking, not networking, not schmoozing, just listening. And I started telling them what I'd seen, about the future, about 2026, about the desperation that was coming. And I warned them. I said, "Don't fall for it. Don't believe the lie that you can escape death. You can't, but you don't have to be afraid of it, because Jesus already won." Some people listened. Some people thought I'd gone crazy. I didn't care, because I knew the truth, and the truth had set me free. I'm still here, still breathing, still learning what it means to live, really live. Not for success, not for legacy, but for Him, for the one who gave me another chance. And every morning I wake up and I thank Him, not for my wealth, not for my health, but for the fact that I don't have to run anymore. If you're reading this, if you felt something when I asked you to whisper that word, then listen to me. The world is about to get louder. The promises are about to get bigger. The fear is about to get stronger. In 2026, you're going to see things that will tempt you to believe that humans can finally conquer death. And maybe we can delay it. Maybe we can add a few more years. But we can't escape it. And we don't need to. Because death isn't the end. It's the doorway. And on the other side, Jesus is waiting. Not to judge you for how long you lived, but to ask you how you loved. Don't waste your life running. Don't waste your money chasing more time. Invest in eternity. Invest in souls. Invest in the things that will outlast this world. Surrender to the one who already defeated death. And live like you're free, because you are. Right now, I want you to write something in the comments. Write these words: I choose eternity. Not because I told you to, but because it's a declaration, a decision, a line in the sand. The world is going to try to sell you 1,000 ways to escape death, but there's only one way to truly live, and His name is Jesus. I was 42 when I died, but I was 42 when I finally started living, and you can too. Write it. I choose eternity, and then live like you mean it. The future is coming, but eternity is already here, and Jesus is still waiting. Choose Him before it's too late.